Everybody. Thank you for joining. We'll get started in a minute or two. All right, so good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. It's 7 a.m. here in Brisbane. Chris is keen to get started. Just quickly before we do kick off, if you do have any questions during the session today, please drop it into the Q&A panel. I'll be monitoring it behind the scenes and can share any links, or we'll queue it up for Chris to answer at the end. And yes, this session is recording. A copy will be sent around a couple of hours after this webinar has run. So that's the housekeeping from me. Chris, over to you, and everyone, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Simon. And hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Christopher Reeves, CEO at Zap, and I'm here to provide a simple, clean strategy for AI data preparedness. I plan to do so in 20 minutes, leaving plenty of time for questions. As you can hear, I like to run short, and no one has ever complained when I do so. Very quickly, let me establish my background in this area. First, I've been in the data industry for a little under 20 years, helping customers better understand their businesses. I've also been fascinated by AI for a little over 20 years, long before it was cool or potentially scary. I've studied the tensor math recreationally because Netflix wasn't cutting it. And over the past year, I've been using AI for 2 to 3 hours per day across all facets of my job. Finally, I'm currently driving a C-level initiative for AI uptake in our own business. And I'd love to engage you on any of these broader topics. But for now, we're about to go into a webinar that focuses on AI data preparedness. So please, if you would like to engage me on some of these broader topics, do contact or connect with me on LinkedIn. Before we even get started on data prep, let's understand the promise. Does AI provide opportunities that justify lifting a finger? So I like to break down data AI use cases into the following three categories. We have assistive, transformative, and predictive. Assistive can really be thought of as just getting things done faster. Transformative is transforming your data and enriching it for deeper insight. And predictive is the grand promise. I believe the vast majority of people, when they have AI in mind for their data, they want to predict the future. But let's briefly go through each in a little more depth. So kicking it off, assistive AI or copilots, again, they simply help us do things faster. With our trusty copilot, we can also sometimes cover a few more use cases than we might otherwise. Good use case examples are data modeling, design, and auto documentation. So most modern data tools are already introducing such copilots, but where the integrated offerings don't yet exist, chatbots such as GPT and Claude can already be thought of as assistive technology for data purposes. And many of you might have heard of agents. There's a bit of a brouhaha about what the actual definition of an agent is, and I'm not interested in just arguing whether a hot dog is a sandwich or not. For our purposes, agents are a form of assistive technology, and they do stuff for me when I'm not at my computer. That's my definition. Now, transformative AI, again, transforms your data and enriches it for deeper insight. So the simplest example is sentiment analysis, where you transform, say, an email body into a sentiment score. Another example, and one that really demonstrates where this can go, is that we've run our AI transform step over our own internal data to flag possible account miscategorizations based on transaction description and amount. And we found near perfect alignment with what we'd previously flagged. So in this case, the transformation, that enriching, is to add an anomaly flag. Finally, predictive AI takes historical patterns and extends them forward, or it might take known patterns and extrapolate them across geographies or categories. And this is where it's all at. This is what most people have in mind when they think of AI for their data. This is certainly what I'm most excited about in the data space at the moment. Companies want to know when they're going to run out of inventory, when they're going to run out of cash, and who won't pay up. So we've established that assistive AI gets you there faster, transformative AI enriches, but for the most part, you're doing it to predict the future. Because if you can predict the future, everything else really becomes a question of ambition and execution. So that's the promise. And let's keep that in promise when you see that there is quite a bit of work to be done to get there. Now, unfortunately, bluntly, you're not ready. We sold you on a strategy session, and I'll give you a strategy session. If you've read Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, which is one of my favorite books, that means we need to start with a diagnosis. And so here's my frank diagnosis. Your data is not ready, to tone it down a little bit. And KPMG agrees. Now, to be sure, they've only come up with 85%, as you can see here, but this is self-reported, and we know how self-reporting goes. You wouldn't trust a self-reported study on IQ or height. Of the 15% of companies that didn't nominate their data as being inadequate, I'd say that most are simply not admitting that they have a problem. Very, very few companies have this right, but we're here to discuss the steps for you to be part of one of them. So here's the prognosis. You get your data ready before you even touch it with AI, and for three reasons. First, very simple, garbage in, garbage out. And I could stop there, but maybe you really do have exceptional data quality, which would bring us to the second point. You need to be so intimate with your data that AI can't get a trick by you. And finally, do hard things one step at a time. So we'll go into these points. To the first of those, if your sales data has holes so large you can drive a truck through it, you should be striving to fix the data first. You sure as hell shouldn't be predicting the future with it, and that's quite obvious. But the challenge may be, can't AI just fix my data already? Now, assistive modeling tools of today will help. But for the most part, the reality is that data quality is a very human-caused problem. If you really do have garbage coming in, you'll find it's commonly from humans sitting at a keyboard, which is to say you need to enforce data entry processes. And there are so many other human decisions that go into creating a foundation of good data quality, starting with agreeing on your terms. So, for example, if two apes own a lemonade store, one might consider the profit to be net of all cogs, and the other might consider profit to be net of all cogs and the bananas eaten to get through a day in the office. My point being, get your terms consistent, and I'll be more prescriptive on this point in an upcoming slide. Now, for those old enough to remember reading a newspaper, you've probably had this experience where you read an article in your area of expertise and you're blown away by how naive the reporter is. They've completely misrepresented the details, and you know they're wrong because this is your field, damn it. You turn the page, now you're reading about someone else's domain of expertise, and you will eat it up. Okay, reporter, that's fantastic. I'll take exactly what you said. Wow, I cannot believe these facts. Utterly amazing. And that's called Gelman amnesia. We're all guilty of it. Keep that in mind whenever you're using AI of any form. And the reason I call this out is that you need to be so intimate with your data that you're not going to sit back and be fooled by it. You don't want to be in the position where you say, I can't believe my ROI is 60% this month. That's bloody fantastic. And the reality is it's just a hallucination behind the scenes. Get intimate so you can spot the nonsense, and there will be nonsense. But my ERP data is good, you might say, and it may well be. So it might not necessarily be about ERP data in all cases, which is to say, sorry, ERP data quality. There may be cases where there certainly are cases where ERP lives up to the promise because it's been well implemented from the start and well maintained. But even in those circumstances, you're not ready for AI because AI requires structure, governance, and context, which we're going to get to. The point is, if you're sitting on good ERP data, that's fantastic. You've got a head start. But over the next few slides, I expect to convince you that you've still got a project ahead. And if I've not already convinced you to get your data prep in place first, before you touch an AI project, let me make this point. Juggling on a unicycle is possible, but I assure you they got the juggling or the unicycle riding down first. And it's the same thing with any AI initiative and data prep. Do hard things one step at a time. Now, a challenge, as we've got here, is, but can't I just wait for AI tools to do it all for me? And yes, you can, and that might work. But while you're waiting, your competitors are deriving insights from the clean data that they have today through their investments. And when those better tools do arrive, you still have a very human set of problems to solve, as demonstrated by our quibbling apes. Now, say you're sold or at least run with me for now. Yes, I'll get my data prep done first, but what's that mean? What do I have to line up? Well, you need data governance, data structure, and data context. And we're going to go through those. Data governance ensures you can trust your data and that people can trust it with you. Data structure ensures that AI can return your answers before the heat death of the universe. And data needs context. For example, 9 is a relatively dull number until you appreciate that it's the number of billions of humans living out their lives. So, great. We're on to data governance, and it's one of my favorite topics, but I promise not to bore you. So here's my 3x3 framework. It's a lot, and you'll note the entire left column talks to single source. That is getting everything in one place. So what I'm going to trust is that once you have all your data in one place, you'll understand the importance of securing it and respecting data sovereignty. And with that, we can put those other columns aside and just focus on this point. So all of these are the foundations of governance that drive AI success. AI needs a single source for all your data, agreed meaning for that data, so we can't have our apes quibbling over profit definitions, and calculations defined once in one place. Now, I'll call it out explicitly why single source. Foremost, it removes contradictions. So you're reconciling data in advance, agreeing on which employee record is correct, which profit definition again. And the kicker is, having done all of this in advance, it obviously makes data retrieval orders of magnitude faster. It's trusted and it's fast. This means it is that your AI queries data and it gets the same responses as your reports and analytics. It will match, it will line up, you can trust it, and you can better trust AI with predictions. On to structure, and one thing that I find in moments when I'm using chatbots and I'm tired is that I often write prompts that are effectively read my mind and make magic happens. Now, unfortunately, AI is not magic and it's still constrained by physics. So what this means is that when your AI system asks questions of your data, the data needs to be performant. The right database design and database decisions ensure this. And they can also do their part to ensuring data governance is enforced, removing the risk of duplicates. Now, faster sounds great, but it's not just quantitatively better, it's qualitatively better. That is, by investing in structure, that speed enables whole new AI use cases. For example, real-time AI analysis instead of overnight. Now, we trust our data and it's cooking. But if you hand it over to your mum, would she understand it? And probably not. So why would you expect your AI? Slight segue. Maybe in grade school English, you too were hammered with context, context, context. So here's my prompting class in 3 words for you, lifted straight from my high school English class. It's all about context, context, context. Quite literally, every chatbot failure is a failure in providing context. And the issue is that as humans, we get bored and lazy in providing that context. So my lesson is simply don't get lazy. Prompting class 101 over. But here's the segue back to our data. It's the same. Data needs context, context, context. Every data point needs its story. Where did it come from? What's its name? What's their backstory? Give them some deep documentation, wrap it all up, call that a data model. Now, this sounds like a big project, and this part can be, the entire part can be, but I can't overemphasize the value of this investment once you have your governance and structure in place. And fortunately, you can use AI models themselves to help you build out this context and make sure your data points get their stories straight. Now, with data you can trust, because you have governance in place, data that performs because you have structure in place, and data in context, now you're ready for AI. Assistive AI to help your day-to-day, transformative AI for insight, and predictive AI to change your business. That's a lot, I appreciate, to get you there. Equally, if I told you, don't worry, there's an app for that, you'd be skeptical. And if I told you it doesn't matter if your data is spread out, it doesn't reconcile, and is sitting on mullet vintage servers. It doesn't matter that you know more about Latin conjugates than your own data. If I told you none of this matters, you'd be very skeptical. And my point is, you know what needs to be done, but hopefully I've provided a framework for you to get started. So what should you do now? What's the first step? Well, first step ostensibly is to assess the gap. Be hard on your data and then start chipping away. Govern your data. And as we heard, that's largely about centralization. Through the centralization, we remove contradictions. Structure your data for performance and to enforce your governance rules. Then layer on context and a little bit more context, and then just a bit more context because you can never have enough. Build out that foundation, get intimate with your data, and then you're ready for AI. And there's one more thing. I have a guarantee for you. I guarantee that if you follow this through and create a strong data foundation within your business, if you get that governance structure and context in place, but you're still not happy with what AI delivers, I guarantee nonetheless you'll be sitting happily on trusted reporting and analytics. So you can't lose. So my only ask is, if this resonated, we'd love to show you how we solve these problems and what we're building in AI. Or if you're not ready, I'd ask that you please connect on LinkedIn, as I do tend to post content on data and AI regularly. And with that, are there any questions, technical or strategic? I'm happy to field anything.
Thanks, Chris. Yes, just a quick reminder, if you do have a question, please plop it in the Q&A panel and we'll queue it up. There are three that came in, Chris, through this morning. So the first one is, how do you propose we actually do the predicting?
So one of the fascinating things that's come out in the space of prediction in the last few years is they're using the same technology to predict time series data as they are for chatbots and images. And so I like to think of this as, if you imagine an image and they're expanding the image, they're predicting the outer edges of it. And so they can use that same technology to predict your inventory patterns. So the only downside with this is that it's very much the leading edge of technology and it does hallucinate, but I would expect this will be the dominant form of prediction going forward. Until then, there's your classic data science, which is very human heavy and labor intensive. But I guess my point is we're right on the fringe of a prediction explosion in the same way we have been with images and now VO video.
The second question, how long does the governance structure context thing usually take?
So I would like to say a small company focused could probably deliver that in 6 months. But it's usually quite a big project. It's not all doing it all in one hit. It's the number of human interactions to come to agreement on what terms are, centralization, internal politics. But so, 6 months, 12 months, and more, depending on the size of the company. But it's like working out at the gym. If you said to me, how long is it going to take, if you're a gym instructor, how long is it going to take to bench press 1.5 times my body weight or to do a muscle up? And if they said 12 to 18 months from where you're starting, you wouldn't just throw your arms up and walk away. You'd think, well, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of benefits the whole step of the way, every step of the way. And so that's what you will get through solid reporting and analytics.
And the last question that we've got this morning, actually, one's just popped up. So I'll go to that one. How do you know if your ERP data is actually good or just looks good?
I think it comes down to, I probably answered that one in that you'd need to get intimate with it, but I'll expand on what I think intimate means is that you slice it from every which direction, slice it by geography, price code, for example, across time. And what you will find, and we've found this many times with our own data, is you look at it from a certain angle with these certain slices and things just don't look right. And then you'll drill down and find these crazy quirks. As it was in our case, I particularly remember I was very surprised by certain cost components within our cloud stack. The data was right, but it was enough to, the slicing and dicing allows you to sniff out issues. And so just get intimate.